Hello and welcome to another video on a question B from paper 1, or indeed the composing question in paper 1, the longer one, although this particular one wouldn't come up often in that question, but it does come up now and again in the question Bs after the texts, and it's the formal letter. Okay, it's the formal letter, and how to write one is very specific, and we have to look at that now. So it could be a letter of application. So let's say you're applying for a job, or it could be a letter of complaint where maybe you bought a product and you weren't happy with it, so you want to give it back and you want to complain about what the issue was. Or maybe you read a newspaper article and you weren't entirely happy with what they said in the newspaper article and you want to complain about that. You want to put across your opinion. So either way, it's a formal letter, and I suppose the clue is in the name. It's formal, and the rules of formal letters are very important. If you choose to answer this question on a formal letter, you better know the rules. That's the catch. You've got to get it right. So the most important aspect of formal letters is the form. Okay, what it looks like. And that's what the majority of this little video lesson is going to be about. What a formal letter should look like. And we're going to look at that very, very specifically, because we can't get this wrong. Now, I know it looks a bit messy, but let's imagine that this is a page. There's the corner of our pages, and this is a page, and this is how we would structure a formal letter. So up in the top right hand corner up here, you'd put your address in. Now, an example is over here in red. So an address, you must be very specific about this. So let's say you live in a house in an estate. You would put in the number of the house, number or NO and a little dot, 43 Maple Drive, or whatever your address is, but they get capital letters, and that's important. And at the end of the line you have a comma. Then the next line of the address, Castletown Road. Now I've just made up this address, but the point is the same. Capital letters and a comma. Selbridge, capital C, comma. And then finally, County Kildare, capital, and a full stop, because that's the end of your address. Then you would skip a line in between the address and put the date in then. And the date always looks nice and pretty when you have it like that. Okay? When you have it written with the months, then the date, and then the year would come in the middle, rather than, the 17th of the 3rd, 2020. Nothing wrong with that, but just this way looks prettier. Now, then you'd move straight over and you would write the recipient's address. So on the next line down, their address would begin. And you would put in the recipient's title if you did not know their name. Then their address. So an example is over here. So let's say we want to write a letter of application, or maybe a letter of complaint, to Toys R Us. We would say, the manager, Toys R Us, Naas Road, Naas, County Kildare. With the capital letters and commas, the same as in your address. Comma, chameleon, comma, and then full stop at the end. Okay, last one has a full stop. Capitals all the way. It's an address. This is where you're getting a lot of marks for this in the formal letter. You have to be very careful. You have to get the rules right. That's why it's very important. You can't make a mistake in the formal letter. Like if you're writing a job if you're writing a letter of application for a job, the person that's reading your letter will judge you based on whether you've gotten these rules right. And I'm not just talking about the Leaving Cert, I'm talking about life in general. So you've got to be very, very careful and follow the rules, learn the rules, follow the rules, and get to know them. Okay, after you've written the recipient's address, you would then skip another line and say, dear, right now, if you know the person's name, so if you know the manager or the owner of the business that you're applying to, you would say, dear Miss Simpson. Let's say that's her name. You wouldn't use her first name. Now, if it was a man, obviously, it would be dear Mr. Simpson. Or, if you did not know the person's name, it would be dear Sir Now, if you knew he was a man, you would say, dear sir. If you didn't know it was a man or a woman, you would say, dear sir / madam, comma. Okay? These little commas, these are all important. Okay? Where you're putting in commas and, you know, capitals and things like that. That's what it's all about. There's another capital in there for dear. You'd skip a line, okay? And you would get straight into saying why you were writing. There's no dilly-dallying around here. I am writing to you today, too. Right. Now, depending on what the question was, whether it was a letter of application or whether it was a letter of complaint, so the letter of applications, we're looking at the red points, and the letter of complaints, we're looking at the purple, kind of pink points there. But in general, it's to the point. There's none of this how are you or how are you. You know, that's not in a formal letter. You don't ask someone how they are in a formal letter. You keep it business-like. And you link it to the reason why you're writing. Like if it was a job advertisement and you're applying for an ad, for a job, you link it to the ad that was advertised. So that's up here. I am writing to you today to apply for the job that was recently advertised in this week's Irish Independent. Okay? Or you link it to the article that you're complaining about. I am writing to you today to complain about a recent article you published concerning, you know, young people's behaviour in shopping centres. Now, whatever it is that you've been asked to do in the question. Okay? Or link it to the item of clothing that you bought if you want it returned and you're giving out about its quality. I am writing to you today to complain about a recent purchase I made in your shop of a denim jacket. The denim jacket ripped or it was torn when I brought it home and I'm a bit dismayed about this. Okay? Now, so it's very straightforward. You keep it short. You keep it to the point. It's very business-like. And even if it is a letter of complaint, like this, the purple ones down here is referring to, you don't get nasty. You don't get rude. Never get rude. Your tone can be a little bit what you'd call curt, shall we say. You know, you're not exactly showing much love, but you don't get rude. You keep it business-like. You keep it to the point. Okay, when you have that done, so that's paragraph 1. It's very straightforward, where you just say why you're writing. I am writing to do this or to do that, and you mention the specifics about whether it's a complaint over what, or is it a job? What job is it? So you just say what you're writing for. And then you jump into the bulk of the letter. Okay? Paragraph 2, or even sometimes this can take up 2 paragraphs. So it could be paragraph 2 and 3. So let's have a look at if it was the job application letter. Formal letter of application. You'd get into the reasons why you think you're suitable for that job. Okay, I believe I am suitable for this position as, why? I have had many jobs in the past in which I have worked in the journalism area. I feel I have vast experience. I worked for the Irish Mirror for 10 years, between the years 2004. You know, you just outline your past experience. Yeah? You outline your qualifications. I have a certificate in journalism from my IT teacher or whatever. Just put it down. You outline your qualifications. The person reading the letter wants to know this stuff. You also mention your personal traits. So obviously your positive personal traits. So a letter of application, or even indeed a letter of complaint, it's very biased, you know, and that's okay. That's acceptable. It's very much positive aspects of you. You don't mention the kind of grumpy part of you or the nasty part of you. You talk about your integrity, your honesty, the fact that you're a team player. You talk about any online courses you've undertaken. You talk about basically, you sell yourself and why you are suitable for the job and why this person would be mad to turn you down. Now, if it was a letter of complaint, you would bring up the specifics of the case, of how you feel like you're owed a refund or how you feel that what was written is very, very wrong. You're strong, you know, you argue your point, but you're never, ever rude. Never. You don't use any insulting language about the journalist. You don't infer that they're stupid, but you can infer that they're wrong. And here's the reason why they're wrong. And it's ridiculous to say this, because this is the truth. But you never get personal in a formal letter of complaint. You mention any other relevant information that was missed out in the original article or in the original purchase that you made. If there are any laws that back you up, if this ever happened before, if there's precedents, what's fair and what's not fair. What were the circumstances? What were the circumstances of maybe if you purchased a pair of jeans and it's ripped and you brought it home and you want your money back. Explain exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. So this section is all about details. The devil is in the detail. You have to convince the person reading the letter. You've got to convince them in a nice business-like manner, not by being a bully. You keep it formal. Now, if it was a job application, you don't beg or you don't demand if it was a letter of complaint. And you definitely, you don't be rude. Don't be rude. Or be arrogant. I don't know why I've written just be. It's just supposed to be. Maybe the word is there somewhere. Oh no, it has disappeared. So that's a very important point. It's don't be rude or be arrogant. If you're looking for a job, you don't go on about how great you are. I'm perfect for this job. You'd be mad not to hire me for this job. I'm the best person in the whole country for this job. That's called arrogance, and I don't think anybody likes arrogance. So when you've done that, you get on to just to sum it all up, paragraph 3 or paragraph 4 if you wrote 2 paragraphs with the previous bit. And let's say if it was a job application, the red line again, you would simply say, I enclose a copy of my curriculum vitae for your perusal. Perusal means to look over. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any queries in relation to this application, and I look forward to hearing from you in the near future. You keep it businesslike, you don't beg, you don't be desperate. Obviously you'd have to put in a curriculum vitae with a letter of application. Okay, that's a little technical aspect. You would have to have put in a curriculum vitae, a CV, some of you might know it as. Okay, you just have to. So you have to mention that. The examiner would look for that. And you would also, it's always a nice line just to finish off by saying, I look forward to hearing from you in the near future. And that goes for the letter of complaints either. I eagerly await your response. It's the same thing. Now, in the letter of complaints, you could put in, I trust that I have expressed my sincere disappointment with your organisation. Now, that's what I mean when I've said, don't be rude, be polite. You can tell that that's kind of saying, that line kind of says, I'm bloody sick of your business, you're a pile of egots, and I don't like you. But you don't say that, you say it in that way, the way I've said it. Okay? I trust that I have expressed my sincere disappointment with your organisation. That's nicer. And they don't have one up on you then by being able to say that you're rude and ignorant. I would very much hope that a resolution can be found. So you express a bit of hope. Yeah, you don't just back yourself into a corner with ignorance. You want to get your money back or you want to get your point across. So always be civil. And then you'd sign off. Now this is very important. You'd sign off like if you don't know the person's name, you use faithfully. Okay, and it's a small f. Now this is a minor detail, but this is what I mean. This is a formal letter, so you better know the rules. It's a small f, not a capital F. And it's a small s if you're talking about sincerely either. So if you know the person's name, you would use yours sincerely. So it's a capital Y, small f, or a capital Y, small s. That's very important. These little rules are what formal letters are all about. Comma, and sign your name in. Okay? And if you wanted to draw, you can draw a line underneath your name. Get this right. You can draw a line underneath your name and then print your name. Okay, that even adds to the kind of formal effect. Okay, so let's just zoom out for a second. I know this looks a bit messy, but just to take it in a bit, just digest it. If you choose to do the formal letter, you've got to get these things right, those rules that I'm talking about right, with regards to the address, with regards to the date, with regards to the commas, with regards to the dear and the comma and what you would start off your letter with, the formality of it. You don't veer away from that, you keep it to that, the various different ways of signing off at the end. Remember that the audience of this are people you don't really know, so you've got to assume and you've got to be polite. You've got to be polite and respectful, but let your emotions sneak in a subtle way. Yeah? So if you're angry and if you want to make a letter of complaint, I found the article to be highly insulting for the following reasons. So that's showing you're angry. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. Okay, I hope that's of some help. I hope you pause it at the relevant places and attempt a formal letter in a while.